Welcome back, and we continue with our focus on the India Revival Mission. Viewers, it's Lockdown 3.0. There are many parts of our country where freedom has been given to restart some amount of business, some amount of economic activity, construction, manufacturing as well. But there is one sector that's far, far away from any kind of relief. There is one sector that actually got hit the first just when pandemic was reaching our shores, and perhaps would be one of those last to see any kind of revival, and hence the maximum amount of pain is right now being seen on tourism and hospitality. And I don't know about you, but most people have abandoned all their travel plans, at least the leisure travel plans for this year. Business travel may resume at some point. But how are the hotels, how is the hospitality sector going to cope up with it is a big question. So tonight, as part of our coverage under the India Revival Mission, we're going to put the spotlight on the hospitality sector. Let me tell you that there has been an overall complete falling of occupancy as far as hotels are concerned for justified reasons. Nobody is allowed to travel anymore. 30% decline in revenues estimated as per the basic estimates just for this quarter. 60% of the organized hotels are shut, and the slowdown is expected to last at least till October. But that's just a very basic overview. Things are extremely grim as you begin to go in deeper into this entire scenario. To give us a better sense of what needs to be done and how do we ensure that the damage is bare minimum, what should the government do? Let's say good evening to the panelists who are joining us right now. Rohit Kapoor, CEO for India and South Asia for Oyo Hotels and Home, joins us this evening, and Sanjay Sethi, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer for Chalet Hotels, joins us this evening as well. Now, the idea is to simply get a sense not just about when we will see a revival, because honestly nobody knows. Even if the lockdown gets lifted in many parts in the coming months, what happens after that, how many people will actually be allowed to travel is the big thing. But what do we do now at this moment to help these businesses, to help the people who work in these businesses, who are paid by these businesses, with absolutely nobody coming in? That's the big question. So let me actually go across to Rohit Kapoor first and ask him, Rohit, how are you guys managing?
Thank you for having me over. This is obviously a tough time. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Absolutely. Go ahead, please.
Okay. This is a tough time, and I am totally cognizant that we are in a tough spot where you need to balance what's happening with respect to healthcare and the pandemic with the economic revival. And I just have 3 points to make here. One is we are fully supportive, and the hotel sector, hospitality sector has come together big time in terms of joining hands with the nation to support. So many hotels were being used as isolation facilities, quarantine centers, and the hotel staff which has been out there, a big thank you from my side to them. But moving forward, very important that we do 3 things. One, we dissociate the concept that hospitality is luxury and leisure tourism. There is a definitive role that the hotels have to play in bringing the economy back on track. So with industries opening up gradually, people have to stay next to where they are. There are various industries, various IT companies reaching out to hotels, asking for their staff to be housed because they want them to stay close to where their work is. That's one. Second is we must have a graded path immediately of opening up the sector, starting with hotel rooms and then slowly with F&B, and as the situation improves on the pandemic side towards opening up large banqueting facilities, but that will take some time. I totally understand that. Third is what cannot be ignored is that this is one of the largest employment generators, the sector, and that has been hit really hard. So like every other sector, this needs a immediate revival plan, and that has to come from the government, the industry, and I confirm on behalf of the industry that all of us are geared up to with the SOPs to manage in these times, make sure that social distancing is maintained and all kinds of precautions are taken so that there's no other fallback of opening. But the time has come to open up the sector as gradually, but like any other sector.
the sector itself was facing a lot of problems. Your company was already, facing tough times even before the pandemic hit you. Now, how long do you think you will be able to sustain in this current scenario unless business starts to open up?
Look, I think there are two parts to it. One is that we have a plan where we can ride this out, this pandemic and beyond, not comfortably, but we have a plan to do that. So I'm not worried about that aspect, and I want to put that to rest. Having said that, I think it is I am and all of us are worried about how long this is going to take or last. But equally, we see signs of economic uptake happening across industry, and it's heartening to see slowly cities and towns coming back into action. And I think the precautions which authorities are taking are right, because this is a fairly tenuous situation where to balance all aspects, and the partnership will work in the sense when the private sector and the government comes together to make sure we open in the right way. So while in the short run the things look really bleak, but I'm quite confident that this is one of the sectors which will bounce back equally strongly, and in not too distant a future. But we need to start now.
You say you're confident it's going to bounce back. How is that really? Considering that I don't think travel is on top of people's minds right now, at least for the next many months.
Look, I think you have always look at examples of what happened in the past or what happens in other countries. So if you look at previous pandemics, when the pandemic subsides, people have been inside their houses for a fairly long period of time. So there's a natural tendency to travel, but I think that people will apply their own precautions. And if you look at past pandemics, that's happened. The closest example we see is in China, where after the virus has subsided, the occupancies are not back to original levels, but they are definitely back to, let's say, the 40-45% levels from single-digit numbers that collapsed to. So there's evidence of this happening in markets where the pandemic is subsiding or the curve is flattening. So and look, this is the fourth crisis I've seen in my working career. When you are in the middle of it, it looks absolutely bleak, but there's always a path to recovery. But it's very important that all of us come together, the government, the private sector, every stakeholder needs to come together now to make sure that the recovery is not delayed, and we take baby steps, but we start those baby steps today.
Okay, stay on with me, Rohit Kapoor, as I also say good evening to Sanjay Sethi, MD and CEO for Chalet Hotels, joining us right now. Mr. Sethi, just how bad are things? How are you guys managing to sustain right now when business is absolutely zero? Mr. Sethi, good evening. This is Tanvi here. Can you hear me?
Tanvi, I can hear you now. Thank you. I believe we had some network issues and we couldn't connect.
Yes, I was asking you. No worries, no worries. I was just having a conversation with Rohit Kapoor of Oyo Hotels, and I'm asking you the same question I asked him. How are you guys managing right now at this point when there's absolutely no business?
So Tanvi, it's like this, and the industry is clearly going through a tough time, like a lot of other industries around the world. I think we've got to get our act together, which a lot of the hotel companies have sort of started working very quickly on. But we do need a lot of government support also. The challenge here is that some of the bigger companies with asset bases will get through it on the strength of the assets that we have, the locations that these assets are located in, the business mix that we have, the brand partnerships that we have, and the ability to call on the line of credit that we can call on. But the industry is much larger than that. And I think the government needs to step in and hold hands of the industry today. And both the state and central government need to help us get through 4 or 5 key things. We are a very capital intensive as well as a people intensive business. So I think the first thing that we need from the government, for example, is some relief on our loans. So one way of doing that is to allow RBI should allow the banks to do a one-time restructuring without having to take a hit on their P&Ls or their books for one time over, so we can restructure the loans and then move on. Second thing, I think we need some help on the capital or working capital requirement for the industry. One way to do that is to subsidize wages costs in some form or the other. I believe the government's sitting on a huge kitty under the ESI scheme that can be released in favor of some of the industries that are affected adversely. The state governments need to step forward and give us some relief on electricity costs as well as on excise license fees and property taxes. It's really unfair that if we have to go through this year paying full property tax and full license fees at the state government levels when we will not be in a position to do business. Similarly, as an industry, we've been declared an industry several years back, but we still end up paying commercial rates as far as electricity is concerned. And that is the second largest operating cost in our business. So we need relief on that. We need to be charged at industrial rates. This is what we need the government to do. Rest, leave it to us. We are a very resilient industry. We'll come out of it, and we'll come out of it strong. But at this point of time, we need some hand-holding over here.
Okay, I take your point, and you know, you've been very clear about those 4-5 issues where you do need the government to help in. But we've largely been having conversations on the India Revival Mission about you know, the path from here on. For the hospitality sector, do you foresee still a large number of, you know, places being shut down and jobs being lost? Because yes, gradually travel may begin again and pick up again, but it's going to take a while, and like you said, it is a capital intensive business.
Yes, Tanvi, it will take time, and I see some trouble times ahead. It is going to be a couple of years before the industry really finds its feet and comes back to normal. And we don't see any form of business coming back now till around the Diwali time. I think in your opening speech, you mentioned that it's likely to come back in October. I believe it will be post-Diwali, so mid-November onwards. Yes, and there will be a lot of companies, individual hotel owners, which small hotel companies, which will find it very difficult to make it through this time. And a lot of them will collapse. I think they will collapse on two fronts. Number one, some of them who have debt will find it difficult to pay the debt back, and therefore they will collapse under the bankruptcy court. The second challenge that I see happening is the inability to pay wages. You know, as I said, we are a very people-intensive business, and the largest cost of this business is payroll costs. And on that front, we do need support if we have to protect employment.
All right. I'm just going to step away from, you know, the sector itself and just ask Mr. Rohit Kapoor one question before we wrap up this conversation. Mr. Kapoor, your organization has actually converted some of the hotels and available spaces into even quarantine centers, or, you know, for people who need to be in isolation can check in and services are provided. Is there a concern, considering that we are seeing some amount of stigma out there in the society, that this may hit your business at some point?
Look, we believe that this is the highest form of service we can do in these times, right? And I just want to make an appeal through this forum to make sure that anybody who's helping out during COVID times is seen with highest amounts of respect, and there's no question of having any stigma. We are so proud of our hotel partners who have come forward in these times. We're so proud of the staff which has volunteered to go out in these times. I think they have played equally important role like a nurse or a police worker or anybody else. I think they deserve all our respect on this count. I do not believe there's any stigma. If there's a hotel which has served as an isolation facility, post-COVID subsides, I will go and check in and stay there out of sheer respect.
No, I think you will have to do that, and while I'm completely with you on every single word that you said, and there shouldn't be any stigma, unfortunately we've seen that even for people who've, you know, simply been tested and found negative and gone back home, or quarantined and gone back home, and the way people have responded, even for our frontline warriors, the way people have responded to them, it's quite unfortunate. And you are right, I do want to also highlight and say that we must mention all those staff members who are there in these hotels and quarantine facilities and continue to work, including yours as well. So thank you so much. Thank you to you and Sanjay Sethi for joining us on this conversation for a quick insight on just how things are in hospitality and what it is that the government needs to do. Thank you, both of you, for joining us on this conversation. Okay, now let's move on to the big debate tonight here at the 9 p.m. Urban Debate. And viewers, we're going to talk a little bit about the app called the Arogya Setu app. Now, this is the app that's been put out by the government, by the central government, and this is being used to track all the developments regarding COVID, regarding coronavirus. It's the indigenous corona tracker, and it's being pushed heavily by the central government. Everybody is being asked to install this, to use this for all the updates that they need as citizens. But it's in the eye of a storm right now. And this is because there are many who are raising issues about these apps, who are asking questions about this app. The opposition has asked whether there is an issue with the privacy, whether the data can be misused, if the government is actually going to use this data for surveillance, and all kinds of questions have been raised. In response to this, the government has come out and tried to give an assurance to say, no, the data is all safe, and the app's only motive is actually to give information to people and nothing else. But the app does have a GPS tracker that needs to be enabled. The app does have a Bluetooth setting that needs to be enabled. And so it does track your movements and your location. It asks you for your basic information that you can voluntarily put in. So the idea, viewers, tonight is to understand if this app should be a matter of concern, if there is any merit to the questions and the concerns that are being raised about privacy and about surveillance, or if it's simply an app that's being used to help us fight coronavirus better, or if it's simply an app that's just a great use of technology to help us tackle coronavirus and keep the authorities informed and updated of how it's really going to work and which way the infection is spreading. So I'm going to say good evening to the panelists who are joining us right now on this conversation. We've got Adil Singh Boparai, National Spokesperson for the Congress Party, Gopal Agarwal, National Spokesperson for the BJP. I've also got N. Samsheed, member of Kerala Legislative Assembly. He's joining us from the Kannur district. Manu Zakaria, cyber security expert, and Dr. Pawan Duggal, also a cyber law expert, joins us this evening. First up, actually, let me go across to Adil, because while there were a few other voices here and there who were asking questions about this app, Congress Party took it up in a big way. Adil, what's the objection? Where are these concerns stemming from?
Well, Tanvi, firstly, there are several concerns about the Arogya Setu app. First and foremost, what about the manner and the mode of information collection? So it started from being voluntary to being mandatory, and now it's been made punitive, which means that in certain districts in this country, if you don't download the app, you can be prosecuted under criminal law. This is point number one. Number two, who has created the app? Who is operating the app? Where is the information being stored? Where is the server being located? These are very serious questions. Even the army has come out and said that you have to be very careful. Even the army has pointed out to its personnel that please download the app from the government website. So therefore, there are genuine concerns. After all, you're talking about data and personal details, sensitive health details of close to 90 million Indian citizens. And we all know that under the Indian law, and the Supreme Court has clarified that privacy is a fundamental right under our constitution, there are certain procedural safeguards which must be maintained. Firstly, about the security of this data. Secondly, about whether this data, where is the sunset clause? For example, if you come out with an app, it must clearly specify in the manner in which you're going to be deleting the information which is being collected. Whether this app is going to be used for surveillance, whether this app is going to be used for profiling, these are legitimate questions. The government can't run away. An ethical hacker from France has indicated information about governmental personnel in very sensitive offices, from the PMO to the army headquarters to the MHA. We don't know whether this is correct or not. The government must step out and tell us what are the procedural safeguards. Mr. Agarwal today on your program must tell the people of this country what are the procedural safeguards. How are you safeguarding the data of 90 million Indians? This is a legitimate question.
Okay, Mr. Gopal Agarwal is joining us right now. Mr. Gopal Agarwal, there are questions being raised about privacy. There are questions being raised about surveillance. Is this data that the app collecting, is it going to be safe? Is it going to remain private? Please answer what the Congress is asking.
Definitely, this is the same question which was being asked at the Aadhaar, seeding of Aadhaar with the Jan Dhan account, and see how benefit it has been. Ultimately, when you talk of a government has all the data with itself. There are several sources through which the government can source data. You cannot always question the government with the data. They have every information which they want to collate. If you are working in living in a democracy, there is lot of access to the government, and across the globe it is. The only thing is that unauthorized use of data or transmission of data to the other party should not be there. That the government has to be believed, and that is being done. Second thing is, this Arogya Setu is for a particular purpose, and that is because of fighting corona it is required. And anybody, it's an application based software. You can just delete the application, then your data will stop. And further, even if you are connected through this app, the option is you discontinue your connectivity, GPS and the mobile connectivity data transmission. Then even if you go out, you don't keep your GPS on or mobile data on, nothing will be transmitted. And government has said that these data will be used for those particular issues, and temporary, you can, once the corona crisis goes away, everybody can disconnect it. But ultimately, these are the rich and elitist mentality that they talk about
that's
data
not how
privacy.
These apps,
Let me finish.
Works. Mr. Gopal Agarwal, once the data has been punched in, it's been punched in, it's there. Whether I uninstall the app, 1 minute please, I'm trying to understand what you're only saying. Whether I uninstall the app later or not doesn't matter. The data has already been given and it's gone out to the server and it's been stored.
Secret about?
And again, you say you can switch off the GPS. 1 minute, let me finish my point. Please, I'm asking you only. Mr. Gopal Agarwal, I'm asking you only. I don't want to get into a confrontation. I want to get my queries answered. You say that if you want to step out, you don't want it to be tracking your location, switch it off. But now more and more government agencies are making it mandatory that if you step out of your house, if you land in this country, if you're out on the road, you need to have this app and you need to have this app active. So it's not like you're giving the choice to people whether they want the app to be tracking their location and movement or not.
Tanvi, this is the elitist mentality which some people in this country are working. They are safe and they are only talking about privacy. Now, direct benefit transfer, is it not helping the common man? How could have that fund been transferred? More than 34 crore accounts have received the fund from the government, either through Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Yojana and other.
That's not what I was asking you, Mr. Gopal Agarwal. So I wasn't raising the issue of privacy. I was just saying that the assurances you are telling me are of no use. Once the data is given, it's given. Now you can give me an assurance that the data will be protected. But if you tell my viewers right now that you delete the app and it will be all right, it's not.
There are 2-3 issues.
That's a different argument altogether. We'll come to that.
No, you cannot just say one portion of the argument.
Whether the data has a privacy issue.
That was not the only issue that I talked.
So let's get to the core issue.
Aadhaar.
Is there any data that is concerning my privacy?
According to you, it is a core issue. According to you, it is a core issue. For me, the core issue is the health of the common man. They are getting the fund transferred. Privacy is definitely an issue, but it is more of an elitist mentality, and that you have to believe in the government of the country. If you don't have faith in the government, what is the purpose? Otherwise, when the government is assuring you, why everybody will not have faith in that? What data you are giving? You are giving certain health data. What is the problem in sharing that? And if you want to fight this corona crisis, if you require that is required. Whatever you are requiring, even if in many surveys, people say that we don't want to share what are the social condition, etc. Without social condition, how the government policy will be formulated? So this data privacy issue is a intellectual discussion, dialogue. Definitely it has connotation, but it has a limited connotation. It cannot be encompass every government policy, because no government policy can be targeted and effective without the proper data with the government. This is the problem with many of our policies earlier, that government doesn't have data. I have been working with the government. I have found that there is so much lack of data on any policy issues. How can you make better policies without the data? Okay, I understand that the privacy issue, then hygiene of the data is required, their security and commitment is required. Now you have every data with the Facebook. You can have faith with the Facebook, WhatsApp, Twitter, and you don't have faith with the government. What is this mentality that people are working and talking about?
Okay, Mr. Adil Bopara, you want to respond to that?
Tanvi, I'm surprised that this is a BJP representative, a government representative, and the kind of answers he's giving. Number one, Arogya Setu app has nothing to do with fund transfer, Mr. Agarwal. It has nothing to do with fund transfer. Number one. Number
same
two,
question you raised that time, sir. It is the same narration that you are trying to build.
You are completely clueless on what the Arogya Setu app is.
No, you are telling that it has nothing to do. I am not saying it is for fund transfer. This is for health. And same thing you raised the narration with Aadhaar card. If that Aadhaar seeding was not done today, how would have fund been transferred?
We can't speak over each other like this.
Okay, Mr. Gopal Agarwal, let him make his point now. Yes.
Firstly, as far as the Arogya Setu app is concerned, the data is stored on an external server. So regardless of you deleting the app, the data has already gone to that server, and we don't know who's operating the server and what is the backend connotation of this server. This is point one and number one. Number two, the issue is about the confidentiality of this data. This is the critical question. Who is operating this data? Number three, there is absence
you
of
don't have a credibility for the government, then what will happen in the paper?
There is no statutory basis for the Arogya Setu app. It is all being done under an executive fiat. It is all being done under executive diktats. Last I checked, we're a country, we're a parliamentary democracy which is run by a constitution. We are not a banana republic. So please stop giving examples of Facebook, etc. And if you want to talk about Aadhaar, in the Puttaswamy case, the Supreme Court has categorically said that you cannot come up with any app unless and until there is a legislative or a statutory backing to it. It must be anchored in some legislative framework. Tanvi, I am surprised and shocked in equal measure with the kind of response a government representative is giving. If this is the way this country is going to run, I
want to go across to our experts.
There is zero accountability.
Okay, fair enough. Adil, you can have questions. You've asked those questions. The answers that the government had to give has been put forward. I actually want to go across to our experts because I feel we're going to get some more concrete answers there. These are the guys who actually know what's going on, what is this app, if there should be concerns. So let's ask them. And I'm going to start with Manu Zakaria. Manu Zakaria, not the first app that's come into this kind of a debate. Should there be any concern? Is there a privacy concern here?
Yes, some of the points that has already been raised. The first being the open source. The government has already made a directive that the apps that the government is using should be open source, whereas this application is not yet made open source. This is one of the major concerns that everybody is talking about. That's the first point. The second is the privacy part and the liability clause. If you have gone through the agreement or the legal terms and conditions as well as all the policies defined, it's not very clear. The third point I would like to add here is that the data, the previous speaker was saying, like, the data, if you want, you can delete it. But my data is already there in the server. There is no provision for me to delete the data that I entered. The next point is who is deleting it, when they are deleting it, what is the process they are following to delete. Nothing is made clear. So these are some of the concerns that the general community or the general people are talking about. On top of it, it is running on a protocol or a Bluetooth architecture, which is by default is a weak mechanism, which means if your Bluetooth is on, anybody can get into your system, which doesn't have a direct relationship with the app, but there are inherent problems, is what I'm trying to convey. So my suggestion would be to answer all these concerns through an official statement, or the other point is, if you look at it, this app was developed in 10 days time, an application which is going to be used by more than 90 million people. It was developed by a group of 30 people, tested and made it online in less than 10 days. So, there is a probability of a bug, is what I personally feel, which, if you come out with more statements like who tested it, are they qualified enough to test these kind of application, whether they are certain empaneled, all these questions are, right now, there is no answer to these questions. So if the government or the particular agency can address these points, then things will become more clear, is what I would like to say.
Okay, Mr. Duggal, what's your own sense about the safety security feature of this and the privacy feature of it? And unless we have fixed these problems and address these issues, should we be making it mandatory for people to download before they step out or before they land back in the country?
Well, if you're going to play with fire, you're bound to get yourself burnt. That is an age-old dictum that's going to equally apply in the context of the Arogya Setu app. This app has huge amount of practical legal problems. First and foremost, the app is not in compliance with the provisions of the Indian cyber law, being the Information Technology Act 2000 and rules and regulations made thereunder. Number two, on cyber security, it does lip service. In its terms, it says that, look, we want to keep your data safe. It says we use encryption, but no details of what kind of security practices they are following have been given. What levels of encryption have been followed? Not given. So much so that the app doesn't even comply with the basic reasonable security practices and procedures as are mandated under Section 43A of the Information Technology Act 2000. The app is silent on how it complies with the parameters of an ISO 27001 international standard for information security. So that's the first big problem. The second big problem is its privacy policy speaks less and hides more. It does not clearly give you an impression as to how it's complying with the provisions of either the Information Technology Act 2000 or the Information Technology Intermediary Guidelines Rules 2011 or the Reasonable Security Practice Rules of 2011. Also, there is a lot of gray areas. For example, they say at one place that your data is going to be deleted after 30 days, after 45 days. At another place, they say, sorry, all the data that you give, we will retain it for as long as the law of the land may require. Well, as of today evening, there is no period that's stipulated for data retention, which means that this data is going to be there on an ad infinitum basis. I'm seeing a broad, global, emerging new cyber world order, where these kinds of these COVID-19 tracking apps are being used for enhancing state power and for potentially monitoring. The potential abuse elements that could be remaining in this Arogya Raksha app is indeed very massive, because there are no checks and balances. You do not know who's accessing your data at which point of time and what will it be used for. And more significantly, the consent of the people has not been properly obtained. Further, at one place, the government says that I'm not going to be liable for any unauthorized usage or disclosure of your data. What kind of an app are we talking about if the app is not even complying with the law of the land? Yes, we are in times of pandemic, but the times of pandemic does not mean that our constitution is suspended or that our fundamental rights are not even adhered to, and that the jurisprudence on privacy which the Supreme Court has laid up has to be delegated in through the background. It's time for us to realize there is no law passed by the parliament which mandates this kind of such an app. And therefore, when you're going to force the insertion of this app onto the mobiles of people, this is going to open up a Pandora's box of legal challenges for such kind of governmental actions, because it could be seen to be in direct violation of the fundamental right to privacy under Article 21 of the Constitution of India.
Mr. Gopal Agarwal, do you want to respond to what both of our experts have just put out?
So the thing is, when he's talking about fundamental rights of privacy, what is about the fundamental right to health? Who will take care of that? Has he? And I don't know what the way Mr. Duggal was talking about so many provisions. I have not gone into various provision of so many softwares we are using. I don't know how many panelists here have gone into every software and gone into such a detail with a cyber security expert that they all those mobile apps that they are using, whether in the computer or iPad or their mobile, everything they have checked and they sign. Even in the loan category also, if you take a bank loan from anybody, you just sign those documents, and somebody may say that if you read those, you will never sign. So these things happen, but you have to have an institutional mechanism where you have to have faith in the government. If the government is saying that we will delete it, we will not use it, it is for the health benefit of the health of the situation. And he said that only 10 days have gone into making this software, when the Prime Minister and department has said that the preparation for this whole process started on 8th January. So first meeting held, health minister said. So these things are quite complicated, and if he has gone into every clause, I have not gone. Either you bring those clauses here and we'll discuss them legally. So we can say there may be lapses, certain gaps. There are in every new software, but that you have to have the faith. Ultimately, you have to see in every decision, Tanvi, economic decision or any government decision or any court judgment, you will have diverse opinion, whether it is good or two-way. But you have to balance what is more beneficial at that point of time. So Arogya said, if Mr. Duggal doesn't want to put this in his mobile, let him not do it. Somebody is not following lockdown procedure.
No, but that's, I mean, if you're leaving it to Mr. Duggal to not put it, that's fine. But if Mr. Duggal was living today in Noida, I'm not too sure where he lives, but if it's in Noida, he doesn't have a choice, because the police there says we will punish you and we will fine you and we will book you if you don't have this app on your phone and you step out. So you're making it mandatory. You're not leaving it to people's choice.
No, Tanvi, if you extend
so don't
this
say
logic,
it's Mr. Duggal's choice. That's all I am saying, Mr. Gopal Agarwal.
No, I am telling you this.
Now I want to ask you a specific question.
No, 1 minute, 10 seconds. If anybody, you are extending this question, the lockdown says you cannot go out of your house. It is encroachment on your freedom to move around.
Are you making, Mr. Agarwal? You're on national television.
These are the logic, you understand? This kind of logic only. The way you
talk
about...
No, you're misleading my viewers. That's all, Gopal Agarwal. Please don't sit here. Please don't sit here and say it's your choice whether you want the app or not, because it's not. In many places, you are making it compulsory. That's all I'm saying. I'm not questioning the logic of making it compulsory right now. That is a different debate. I still have to go across to Mr. Shamsher, who's waiting. Please, let me get in a comment from Mr. Shamsher. This might be helpful to you, Mr. Agarwal, because the state of Kerala also has a health tracker. 1 minute, Mr. Gopal Agarwal. Now, Mr. Shamsher, even the state of Kerala got its own app, its own tracker to keep a record of all the people who were showing symbols and symptoms of coronavirus, and there was a huge furor even then. In fact, in Kerala, the government had to answer opposition's questions in court, but you managed to at least explain to the court that this tracker should be allowed even as the case continues. Now, should there be concern about these apps, whether it's your app or the central government app?
A desperate time asks for desperate measures. But as far as Kerala is concerned, we had addressed the whole questions that has been asked by the court. But in this Arogya Setu, we are not blindly against, or we are not blindly supporting this Arogya Setu. But in this Arogya Setu app, there is a 7th question that should be answered properly by the BJP person. They are asking personal questions. What are the health problems do you have? What is the need of that question? And also the Arogya Setu is being supported, giving support to the PM cares. What is the use of that? For sending money to the PM cares, what is the use of Arogya Setu? That question should be answered. And also it is an apt time to ask the government to make a law for the personal data protection. Justice Sri Krishna has been already submitted a report. Why the government is giving time to make a law? That is the question. From the BJP side, they have to answer why they are not making a law. Privacy is a fundamental right. So every person has a right to keep their privacy. In this app, there is a lot of questions arises. Why you make a 7th question that asking about the health details? What is the use of that? So we are doubtful whether, and also there is a doubt arises from the common man for that question, because, and also government has to give promise to the people, promise to the mass of Indian people that the data should not be communicated to other person. Your private data should be protected. That question should be answered by the government side. Till this moment, they didn't answer that. And also, there are a lot of comments made by various persons. You know that
No, but it's
you
the
will
same,
know
Mr. Shamsher, but we had the same concerns even with the Kerala government tracker. The same questions were raised even at that point of time about privacy, about who's storing this data, that an American US-based firm is actually getting access to that data. At that point of time, even the Kerala government came out with the assurance that no, don't worry about your data, it's fully protected, it's fully safe. So now I'm asking you whether it's the Arogya Setu app or the one that the Kerala government is using, are the concerns legitimate?
Look, Kerala government has not asking unnecessary questions. Kerala government is asking from where are you coming? What is the name? Sex and such questions. But in this Arogya Setu, there was unnecessary questions regarding health. What is the use of that? That should be answered by the central minister. What is the purpose of that question? In this Kerala app, there is no such question. They are simply asking how many days from where you are coming. Are you ready to go for quarantine? Such questions are asked. There is no harmful. Only we are asking harmless questions. But in this case, they are asking about the personal data. What is the use of that? That is to be answered. So unfortunately, the BJP government is not playing. We are not blindly supporting, or we are not blindly we are not against this app. But at the same time, the BJP leadership should answer why you go to the court along with the Congress. Both the Congress and BJP filed a case along with in the High Court. They both went along. Why so? Look, we are living in a pandemic situation, and the governments are preparing for the worst. We are hoping for the best and preparing for the worst. So we are anticipating a worst situation.
Okay.
Worst situation, we need such an app. There is no question. We are not criticizing the government. At the same time, why you are asking the 7th question? That is to be answered. And in the case of privacy is a fundamental right. And also the government should give assurance to the court that the personal data should not be communicated to other person. And also I'm asking the same question, why you are putting Bluetooth? By using Bluetooth, it can be transferred to other person. They are asking you should put on the Bluetooth.
Okay.
What is the use of Bluetooth?
Right.
So such questions should be answered.
So one is the right, Mr. Shamsher, one is the concern about privacy, and we've heard all participants express their views. I also want to talk about the other issue that has been raised by some of the politicians. Mr. Manu Zakaria, are there any concerns about surveillance? I mean, I'm sure the Arogya, I don't know, is the Arogya Setu app really the way the government would want to go to carry out any kind of surveillance on its own people?
I would like to start with the first point, that is, we should trust the government. I agree to that we all should trust the government. But the point here is, what if a non-Indian, whether an attacker from a neighboring country or some other country, get access to this data? Then this trust doesn't work. That's the first point here. Now, coming to surveillance, every government does that, is what I personally believe. And information is what every government is looking for. Even if they're doing it, they'll not say. So, this information, if it gets into the wrong hand, can be extensively used to survey, including your location, to whom you're talking. It has complete access to your mobile phone, and everything that we do today is related. Your mobile is your identity per se. So it could be used if it is not properly managed, is what I believe.
Yes, no, I agree with you. It's not so much about having trust in the government about privacy, but if the app has some loopholes there, and which is what I was actually trying to ask Mr. Gopal Agarwal, because Mr. Gopal Agarwal, on Twitter there is this one, there is one Twitter account and this hacker who claims to have looked into this, and he put out some information. Now obviously we have no ways of verifying whether the information he put out about who is unwell in which government department is true or not by accessing the information of this. But if there are such concerns about safety and security, shouldn't the government look into that at least?
Is looking into it. You are not quoting all the statement which the law minister has said. It is your X credibility versus Y credibility. That Adil Bhuparao will say that my credibility is above the minister's credibility. When the law minister is saying that the architecture is safe, security is there, data is not being outsourced. So if this happens, and there is no end to this kind of question. And right to privacy is a fundamental right, but there are restrictions and limitations. Even the Supreme Court cases also say that it is not absolute, that your right to privacy and is subjective to other issues also, where the health of others are concerned, where the health other issues are concerned, national security is concerned, endemic like this is concerned. You have to go with the situation and work on that. No, and here the statements are coming that in 10 days the app was developed. So these kind of, why you are not quoting and believing what the law minister says? No, if he is saying lie, you can
Mr.
take
Gopal
him to the court.
Then when the Kerala government gave us the same excuse, we asked them the same question. You can't say because it's time of a pandemic and you need something urgently, you start compromising on people's privacy and security of an app. No, you can't. No, you can't. You have existing platforms, use those rather than creating something new and creating a big question mark on
this. Which is the existing?
That's a different matter altogether. I'm running short on time. I want a quick response from Congress party on the concerns about surveillance. Are those really justified, Adil? I can understand if you have question marks about the security of the app and security of the data that's in it. But where are these questions about surveillance coming from?
Tanvi, firstly, merely because we're in the midst of a pandemic, that doesn't mean that you suspend the constitution and you suspend the law. This is of paramount consideration. I hope the BJP understands this. Number two,
you should go to the court then if the constitution is suspended.
Me, Mr. Agarwal, there is a hacker from Europe who's put out information of individuals in the PMO.
But you are using such a violative statement. Constitution is suspended.
Now the government needs to come and tell us whether
you are violating the democratic.
If foreign hackers have information
right of every citizen,
individuals, Indian citizens who are infected with this virus, I think it raises a red flag. It is extremely critical. I hope the law minister, I hope the IT minister comes out and tells us, because this hacker has given us extremely pointed answers and pointed information.
Law minister is giving answer. You are not listening.
The law minister cannot speak and cannot give
Rahul Gandhi.
The BJP is repeatedly...
Okay, gentlemen, unfortunately...
There is zero transparency.
I am out of time. And if only, you had allowed each other to speak a little, I could have gotten some, clear answers from both you. But unfortunately, there isn't any more time left. I'm going to thank all of our panelists for joining us. Thank you for taking out your precious time and speaking to us on this. Viewers, I think while it's everybody's right to raise questions, and the government must respond on those questions, the government must actually take seriously the questions that are being raised by the experts, by the tech experts, the IT and the cyber security experts, by the lawyers and the cyber law experts, and the points that were put across tonight on our show by those people. It's not about a political fight. And I don't care what the Congress party has to say about it or any other political party has to say about it. But if data of lakhs of people is being collected and put together on an app and on a server, then yes, the government must repeatedly, if required, give assurances and give evidence that it is going to be safe and it will not be hacked into and it will not be misused by anybody. If the government tomorrow makes it mandatory for us to have this app to put in all of our information, then yes, the onus is on the government to ensure that all of the fears and concerns are addressed. Completely out of time on this conversation. Thank you so much for joining us.